Hello, fellow people. This is part 6 of my Hypothetical RWBY reboot, which totally won't get me shanked in the back alley by some very opinionated people. Because today we're gonna be handling another controversial topic that I'm sure people will be completely normal about. One of the characters that get misinterpreted by his haters so much that I genuinely don't know how they even got to some other conclusions. Of course, I'm talking about our poor Jaune. And because this will get messy, I think a topic plan is in order. I'm going to be switching back and forth between the topics and the character design discussion to not make it too ranty again. And I want to get this bullshit misinformation out of the way first while you're still paying attention. No, Jaune is not Miles' self-insert. In fact, he's so uncomfortable with this stupid assumption that he avoids fighting for Jaune at all if he can. Most of the scenes with him were written by Monty and Carrie from the very beginning. In fact, why don't I just read their Reddit AMA from at the time someone made this screenshot 6 years ago? Literally words from the writers themselves. And you can't even yell your favorite Montyvision trademark because of what they said. Here we have the question from someone. Unfortunately, this screenshot doesn't give us who it was. Quote, with so many people assuming Jaune is just a big self-insert of you, Miles, what are, if any, the steps you take to try and minimize that feeling? Do you leave his scenes to Carrie? Do you just go with it and pray to all heavens people won't go crazy, unquote? Then we have a reply from Carrie. I'm gonna answer this for Miles actually. In the first 3 volumes, if Jaune was in the scene, it was almost always because either Monty or myself wanted him in the scene. From the very beginning, Monty was very big on having that archetype of character be fairly prominent in the show. Miles has always been incredibly hesitant to insert Jaune into the scenes, to the point of where he's voiced before that he wishes sometimes he didn't voice him. So if people want to be mad at someone for Jaune being in the scenes, take it out on Monty and I. Signed, Carrie. But that's not all, because next we have Miles' answer. Oh, thanks, bud, huh? Yeah, more or less what Carrie said. I won't lie and say that I didn't have fun getting to do lines in the booth. It's always a pleasure to get to do more acting, especially if it's a character that gets to do more dramatic scenes. But yeah, the accusations that Jaune was a self-insert really started to get to me over the years, to the point where I began actively avoiding writing scenes with that had him in it. Now, if I was voicing someone like Torchwick or Watts, bruh, fucking rename the show Teenagers Get Their Butts Kicked by Awesome Bad Guys. The Roman Torchwick Hour of Villainy, starred and written and directed by Miles loves playing villains Luna. Signed, Miles. And if that isn't enough for you to let this fucking misinformation die, I don't know what to tell you besides go touch grass and don't come back until you're able to form coherent thoughts. And if you're really all that bothered by self-inserts, why is it only ever Jaune that gets flagged for it when most of the main cast were based on their actors? What are these double standards, If you want to talk self-insert, how about the fact that Yen was literally created based on and for Barbara? But I don't ever see any flack on that front, huh? And I know you, my well-adjusted Jaune haters, will bring up, Miles is a writer, to which, again, the Reddit post. But also, Barb always was a very prominent figure at Rooster Teeth, so don't give me that nepotism bullshit. And that's not even bringing up the, the very glaringly obvious one that will come up in episode 8. If you can count, you can guess who I'm talking about. Either you apply these standards to everyone, or you shut the fuck up. This has gotten old half a decade ago. Grow the fuck up. With that shit out of the way, let's talk a bit about what I did with Jaune's design. One thing that was always kind of funny to me is the fact that he's supposed to start out as a completely underprepared loser, but then we see him at the dance with those fucking chiseled muscles, which doesn't match his level of training at all. Just another funny one model fits all goof. Him and Yen should have switched models in terms of logical muscle mass. Okay, I'm done goofing. I made him a thin boy for now. I like to think that he started as a noodle, maybe just naturally white from just genetics, but absolutely no actual muscle definition. And then, as he starts training more with Pira and his team, he slowly builds it up until we gradually catch up with his current bulky body. And since our project isn't reliant on models, I'll draw him more bulky over time. Later in speed paint, I did redraw a frame of him from Oscar's birthday animatic, which I set during Atlas timeskip, and you can see I made him a lot thinner than in the screenshot. We'll talk more about other little changes and details in his design after a quick return to bad take land. Another bullshit notion I've seen around is that because there are male characters with screen time in the show, apparently that somehow makes it less feminist somehow. And I'm like, how though? You're saying this as if our 4 primary protagonists and their stories that take up a lot more screen time don't exist anymore just because all 3 guys also exist and aren't just background decorations? I'm sorry, are you actually 5 years old with no object permanence? Because, newsflash, dickhole, you aren't being feminist by saying guy characters suck and shouldn't exist. Give me only girlies, I want to see girlies. I don't even know what to call that. Okay, I can understand if this is coming from people who were catching volume 1 and 2 as they aired and never watched them since, thus hanging onto their first impressions forever. Back then, episodes were very short and coming out once a week, so I can understand some of those Jaune steals screen time takes, but only in this context. I can understand the frustration of waiting multiple weeks for Jaune's arc to be over to look at pretty girls again, but like, It's been a decade, grow the fuck up! Those 4 mini episodes together are like 10 minutes tops, 5 if we take out the credits, and the rest is completely focused on Ruby. If this were a normal length series with, I don't know, 10-20 minute long episodes like we have now, that whole arc would have taken half an episode tops, and then we're back to girlies. The one time Shoestring Reasons actively hurt a character so much that his reputation hasn't recovered since. But that fact is not the show issue, it's you lacking media comprehension issue. Funny how new reactors don't have any issue with Jaune and actually like him too, like Ghost Rebel or Melissa Hime or Not So Average Fangirl, which only reinforces my conclusion that all these bad Jaune takes come from people who got completely brain-rotted by their time in the fandom, or let's be honest, hate them, steeping in their own circle jerk of headcanons and bad takes, which made them intentionally keep misinterpreting his character. More on those bad takes later though. Oh boy, those are some bad takes too. As of writing the script, I've actually seen one of those in the wild on my dash yesterday and I had to suppress a facepalm. And with me recording it now, a month later, I keep seeing those. Still stupid, and I still don't know how one can butcher a character interpretation that bad. Oh, and before some well-adjusted to society smart guy accuses me of dick riding Jaune, honey, no. I'm a race, I'm not inclined to write any dicks. And jokes aside, I like most of the characters and will start ranting on them if I have things to rant about. And I do have a lot of things to rant about here, thanks to you actually, my sweet little soy boys. Now kindly go back to Mama's basement where you belong and stop interrupting my lovely time with her. Details time! Since I made him less bulky for now, he has a more boyish face, which will slowly get more developed? Is that the right term? Homeboy grows up, that's all. You can see the difference in the 2 side profiles I made for him in the portrait sketches section. One is supposed to be volume 1 and the other is around volume 3 ending. Speaking of profile, I gave him a more pronounced nose. It just seemed fun to me last time I drew him for the animatic. And also thick eyebrows, which makes him look a bit more awkward. Stuck in those late teen stages, not quite adult yet, but not a kid anymore either, with those more masculine features breaking the image. One little insignificant thing that matters to me, damn it, that I love is his eye color, because typically you'd have your blue and blonde with light eyes, but no, they're dark blue, like very dark. And I can't explain why, it just tingles my artist senses. Then we get to his outfit. I fucking love how drippy Pyrrha and Ren are, and then there's Jaune, in his fucking jeans and hoodie. Pyrrha really took a look at this loser and went, him, I want him. To be fair, it was said in the interviews that Monty's original concept for Jaune was something like a wannabe hero with homemade armor, so that makes sense. The only part of his outfit that even remotely fits the Huntsman theme is the armor, which is just his family hand-me-down. Really helps to sell his underprepared nature amazing design choices. I do wonder what the pouch on his belt is for, he doesn't use dust, and I've never seen the first 8 kits on anyone there. Leave your takes in the comments, what's in the pouch? And why is he wearing 2 belts that aren't even connected to his pants? Guys, I think we found the culprit behind all the belt decisions in Atlas outfits. Oh yeah, I also changed his silly sneakers to boots he has in anime and manga renders. Like bro, you would not be running around fighting monsters in that shit. I'm still baffled by him fighting in fucking jeans, so sneakers are a step too far for sure. Too much of a doofus territory. Which is actually a nice transition back to all the reasons why every professional critic's take I've seen on Jaune is awful. So we have one camp who thinks Jaune takes up too much screen time when it's infinitely less than with the main girls when you take your blind hatred for anything without boobs goggles off. Then we have the other camp, which genuinely thinks he should have been the main character, while hating him anyway. Let me explain. Just my personal take and assumption for what I've seen of them, but those types of people tend to gravitate to Kiritos and Dekos and all the isekai loser protagonists that somehow still end up badass, beating all the villains and getting all the chicks in a general vicinity of a kilometer. The typical power fantasy bullshit. So they watch the show and they see their favorite archetype, a loser with a sword that still catches an eye of a hot badass girl, despite having absolutely zero reason being a bumbling idiot. The archetype they can relate to and transpose themselves onto. But oh no, this guy is not the main character this time, he's a supporting one, and he only has one girl pining for him? No, that can't be! I can't relate to that! Where's my power fantasy? L series fell off! Generally not understanding that Jaune is not the male lead. He's just a guy with a character arc. Just like other characters are just people with character arcs. Gender doesn't make any of them more or less important to the story. Hell, the most developed character we have is Weiss, and by screen time I'd say Blake's arcs take the most time. Jaune popping in once a volume with his loser hero and survivor's guilt arc don't automatically make his one scene a volume more important than what the girls have. He's not the male lead. You just convince yourself he is. So they hate him because they hate themselves, and because he's not fulfilling their power fantasy. Misunderstanding his character for developing not the way they wanted to, and hating the version of him they have in their head based on those misunderstandings. Which then leads to the other side of the same coin. The Jaune harem. And I know a lot of you just cringed along with me. This is the power fantasy in action. People intentionally stripping all of Jaune's character and development off of him to make him into a blank slate they can put themselves into and live out their dream of having all the girlies funny for them. Just like they do in all the other series, I assume. And thus, since the Canon Jaune is not that, they hate him and say he's wasted or badly written or is a self-insert. Projecting much? A personal anecdote actually. When I was first watching the series with my friend, her and I saw Jaune's introduction and both rolled our eyes with a groan, here comes a love interest, what a surprise. And then we were actually surprised when Pyrrha swooped in and made it very clear very fast that Arcos is the ship they're going for. It was so refreshing, not having the first prominent male character the protagonist meets be her love interest, breaking the typical anime formula. That's what I appreciate about the show and what I hate about the fandom. Also, no shade to Lancasters, you guys are great. Your ship is a sister ship to mine, it's just not my thing. To summarize, we have two completely different camps that all hate Jaune but for polar opposite reasons, which is so fucking wild. One side hates him because male character and girl show equals bad and wants him gone completely. The other side hates him because he's not fulfilling their desires and want more of loser early him to use as a vessel. And then the offshoot of the other side, where they want more of him but only the bullshit version they have of him in their minds, with zero flaws, zero development and a harem. And all 2.5 somehow managed to completely misunderstand who he is and what his character arc is. I feel like what they actually end up hating and what all the controversy is about is actually both sides seeing the bad take the opposite side is making and assuming this is what the in-show Canon Jaune is like. And since it's the opposite of what they want, they jump on the hate train, not bothering to check if maybe what they saw isn't anywhere close to canon either. Huh. One interesting thing I keep thinking about is the Arc family as a whole, generational warriors, and everyone mentioned male. And then we get to the current Arc clan and its 8 kids. Yeah, no wonder Jaune's dad is giving that flirting advice with that brood. And 7 of them girls. So no wonder Jaune feels like he has to overcompensate with the macho antics and decides to be a hero. More on that later. One thing that isn't actually correct, at least I think it's not based on the info we got, is the popular thought that Jaune is the youngest. Fun fact if you didn't know, the Arc kids are actually a rainbow, illustrated by the picture we have of them all together, both twins being blue. There's clearly the oldest in red, and we know Saffron, orange, is older than him. By that logic, yellow, Jaune, would be next. So he's third oldest actually, and it's supported by Saf's comment about only them two living away from home. Jaune is like what, 18, 19 doing Mistral Arc? So that would make all of these ones kids, and the Red sister is probably helping take care of them. Anyway, back to overanalyzing. Imagine what it was like, growing up the only boy with 7 sisters in a family of famous warriors, listening to your grandpa's stories about the Great War while your sisters are trying to braid your hair again. Naturally, he'd want to be more like his forefathers, jumping more into hyper-masculinity and the whole can of worms that opens up. Imagine him playing around with Crossy Amors and then getting scolded for it. Don't touch it, it's family heirloom, you'll damage it. Foreshadowing. We'll continue more on that thought process later. Let's first handle the rest of the stupid points. There's a great transition opportunity there anyway. Now, the funny thing is about the polar opposite takes on Jaune is that they mix together on this one even stupider take. The one that makes my blood boil so fucking much. No, Jaune is not an host, you stupid fucks. Let's tackle it one point at a time. So, in case you didn't know, some absolute fucking clowns, some critics making their rewrites, read glorified power fantasy fanfics that leave no trace of the original story intact and don't even have a basic understanding of the plot points they're criticizing, really like to erase Oscar for some reason and instead make Jaune into the next Oz, despite it being the most stupid take I've seen since Pyrrha's still alive, I'm sure of it, she'll come back next volume. Or the infinitely stupider one with Torchwick becoming an Oz host, which I won't even make fun of, it's so bad. Okay, this joke is even funnier now, a month after I wrote it. Now that I know the guy who made that stupid idea, or at least popularized it, is watching my videos. I'm not sorry, I said what I said. It's fucking stupid. And stop erasing Oscar, you asshats! So, how is this stupid idea combining the powers of the opposite takes on Jaune? Well, the removal of Oscar is usually undersigned by, we have too many characters already. Which, 8? We have 8 of them, not 28. Ruby, Junior, Crow. Everyone else is background or minor character, only there to support the storylines the mains have. I'll tell you why we actually need the minor characters in a later episode. And no, 8 is not a lot, considering Renora is still an amalgam entity at this point and are mostly in the background. Vice is playing support because her arc ended for now, and Crow is only there as a mentor. Even Ruby is just slow-burn cooking for now, as we discussed in her video. That leaves Blake, Yang, and Jaune. Then we only add Oscar. 4. It's really not a lot for a long-running show, unless you have absolutely no ability to comprehend multiple character arcs at the same time, which... how are you watching anything then? Even children cartoons have plot A and plot B in every episode, bruh. So yeah, too many characters argument doesn't work, along with all the other absolutely brain-dead takes on Oscar that I will get to in Volume 4. Argument 2 comes from the side that wants Jaune to be the main character for some reason. Making him an os will automatically make him more important to the story. But they ignore some very important things that immediately break that. 1. He doesn't match the os criteria, and 2. He already has his own character arcs. Firstly, the os criteria. Jin described at the moment we met Ozma, pure noble soul who only fights for righteousness and wants to do great things not for a prize but for greater good because that's what should be done. Now, does that sound like the guy who forged documents, cheated his way into a prestigious institution just because he wanted praise and validation of being a hero like his father, grandfather and so on? Yes, he grew from that mistake, grew a lot, but it was still something he did from his own will and need for recognition. Thus, not righteous and seeking some sort of payback from being a hero. Thus, not an os. And he already has his own arcs, plenty of them. He doesn't need Oz's entire baggage on him too. The magic, the merge, the identity issues, the Salem side plot, that's too much even for Oscar, and he was created specifically for these plot points. And you want to put all that on top of what Jaune already has? His wannabe hero arc, his survivor's guild arc, culminated in his rusted knight arc? Isn't that a bit too much? Let's talk about those arcs a little bit more. Jaune always wanted to be a hero like his forefathers. Being the only boy out of 8 children certainly solidified the desire too. But he was never good enough. Even his own parents didn't believe he could do it. So he got his hands on fake transcripts and got into Beacon anyway to prove a point. Prove that he can do it, that he's good enough. I doubt he told his parents what he did, probably lying that he got into Beacon himself.
You were the first person to ever believe in me. You know that? Even when I told my parents I was going to Beacon, they told me not to worry if I ended up having to move back home. How depressing is that?
Which just wounded his pride more. And that would make him a lot more stubborn to prove everyone that he can do this all by himself. He already got this far and now it's easy. Except it's not. Because everyone else got here by their own skills. They way outmatch him in every way. Even Ruby, who's a prodigy despite being younger than them. Another chip on his shoulder. He got made a leader, but everyone including him can see that he's just a failure that somehow got lucky. Another chip. So when Pyrrha approaches him, the Pyrrha Nikos, offering to personally train him, he takes that as a joke, making fun of him, telling him he can't do this no matter how much he tries. Just like he was told his whole life, that he's not good enough, never was. So he lashes out.
I got my hands on some fake transcripts, and I lied.
What? But why?
Because this is what I've always wanted to be. My father, my grandfather, and his father before him were all warriors. They were all heroes. I wanted to be one too. I was just never good enough.
Then let me help you.
I don't want help. I don't want to be the damsel in distress. I want to be the hero.
Jaune,
I'm tired of being the lovable idiot stuck in the tree while his friends fight for their lives. Don't you understand? If I can't do this on my own, then what good am I?
And then gets caught on Carton's leash, becoming his follower, doing anything to keep the secret about the cheating, to not get kicked out, to not move back home to his parents and sisters, and the lack of surprise to his return just a few weeks into the school year. He absolutely hates being a tool, but he hates the I told you so waiting for him at home a lot more. So he keeps being that tool, letting them make fun of him. At times he would notice a foreign student walking not far from Carton's crew, and knows they would notice soon too if not already. So he intentionally would do something stupid to grab their attention instead, like trip on solid ground or spill a drink over himself or get himself stuck in a door with crossy amours again. Giving Cardinal a mocking target, but also becoming a distraction, giving the foreign student time to get away. He may not respect himself and goes along with Carton's bullshit, but he has morals. Velvet will remember that. And speaking of morals, that's what ultimately breaks him out of Carton's grasp, refusing to harm his friends, choosing to be hurt instead. No wonder his dormant semblance reacted slightly in that moment, sacrificing a part of himself to protect the people he cares about, giving them the support they need. But without the giving part yet, and not enough of a dire situation, so it didn't unlock just yet. It's too soon, he needs to learn what happens if he can't be there to give that support. And he needs to learn to accept support from others too. Thus he apologizes to Pyrrha, and now trains with her. He'll start going on morning jogs to build up stamina. Sometimes he'd run into Velvet also running there, and she offers he joins her, Wise and Yang, remembering him distracting Carton before and appreciating it. So now he joins the little group every morning, much to Wise's annoyance. Eventually, he'll tell Ren and Nora about what he did, and would ask them to help with training too. He knows he's got a long way to go to catch up. Nora immediately pulls out her one-ton barbell, making him regret the decision. Ren has another approach, focusing on creating a healthy body first before making it strong. with meditating and breathing exercises to improve blood flow and thus endurance, and even battling motion sickness, and also there's murder juice. It is healthy, but it is disgusting. Jaune will stick to his cereal, thank you very much. He hates it, it's so bad, it's mostly sugar, but he keeps buying it, he has a goal in mind. I like to think that he got matching hoodies for his whole team as an apology for being card and stool. He figured out eventually that it would be smarter to just buy them from online merch store instead of buying 150 cereal boxes. They wear them on movie nights. And if someone says they look stupid, Nora will bake their legs. And that's where we're gonna leave our silly woman boy for now. I hope I managed to clear up some bullshit misconception people have about him. I think most of the hatred for characters and these weird headcanon versions of them come from a lack of understanding on who they are and where they came from, and how that would affect them in the long run. I know only what I see and not thinking about the implications. Something tells me that most people forgot about the line Jaune had about his parents in Volume 3, which had so many implications, and they were even spelled out. I guess Arcos and Pyrrha breaking down right after overshadowed it. Or the line about him never being good enough when he snapped at Pyrrha, but I didn't forget and started overthinking why would he think that and what would lead to those thoughts. So yeah, here we are. I hope you understand him a little bit better now, as it is one of my goals with this series. I didn't even need to come up with anything new for the backstory part, I just vocalized what was implied in canon and what would that mean. Everything I said about his reasoning was already there, just in subtext, and I pulled it out in plain text. I'll continue diving more into implications on other characters too, even side ones, that's kinda my job here, so please tell me what you think about this. So yeah, next time we'll look at the other half of the pair with Pyrrha, and try to understand more about what exactly Jaune did to get a shot right into her heart. I'm not sorry, and I'll see you on the other side. And because this will get messy, I think the upload... Спасибо, часы. Прям вовремя. Fucking rename the show Teenagers Get the Butts Kicked. What are these double... Если бы у меня еще голос не ломался, было вообще шикарно. But oh no, this guy is not the main character this time, he's a supporting one, and he only has one girl pining for him? No, that can't be, I can't relate to that! Where's my power fantasy? L series fell off! Don't adamalgim. To summarize, we have two completely different capes. У тебя большой кусок. Сейчас я буду рвать и метать. Как же я ненавижу вас всех ублюдков, которые пытаются заменить Оскара с какой-то всякой хренью.